Welcome to Marketplace with Charles. Marketplace is brought to you by Art of Skin Care, the company that brings out the beauty in you, and Kuwisa Lodge, where dreams do come true. From deep in the heart of Mabalingwe Nature Reserve, as well as Grace Farms, your #1 fresh produce. I am Charles Ngobeni. On Marketplace, we redefine your future by equipping you with tools that you need to achieve your entrepreneurial dreams. Each week, we bring you insight from experts in different fields of business, from wise men and women of great stature. Today, we'll meet a pastor, an author, entrepreneur, life coach, and a church planter of note. He's passionate about seeing you successful. For the longest time, people have thought of sex in terms of only giving birth and physical enjoyment. We have hardly thought of the mechanism that makes sex to be what it is. But can sex boost your success in business? My guest today will try and explain this in details. Sex and business. Dr. Tich, welcome to Marketplace with Charles.
Hey, Charles, it's so good to be here. What a joy and what a great job you're doing. We're so excited.
You know, you're coming here for the 5th time?
Yes.
First time we had 2 episodes, second time we had 2 episodes, right. And now this is the 5th time.
I'm back. It's good to be back. Thank you for having me back.
Dr. Tich, I don't want to waste much time. I want you to rock and roll now.
Okay.
What is there in sex that we can spend a program like this, a valuable time like this, and talk about it?
Well, people really want success in life and they want success in the marketplace. And one of the things that we discovered in our research in working with many couples, in fact, hundreds of couples, we discovered that their sex life and their marketplace presence has a very strong relationship. And here's how it works. Yeah. Your largest sex organ is your skin. Your second largest sex organ is your brain. And then all the other accessories that God has given to us come in.
Wait, are you saying my brain is a sex organ?
Absolutely. Because that's the first place where the whole process of sex and sexuality, sexual pleasure, sexual expression comes from your neurological system. But because it's centered in your brain is the same tool that you're using for the marketplace. The marketplace is about problem solving. The bigger the problems you solve, the more money you get. So if you're solving a secretarial problem, you're getting 5,000, 10,000 rand, 50,000 rand. If you're solving a CEO problem, you're getting 150, 500,000 rand a month. It's the problems that you solve that determine the amount of money that comes in. If you're in the marketplace running a business, each deal that you get, whether it's a 100 million deal, 200 million deal, it's a collection of problems. And here's where it now gets interesting. Your brain is designed to solve problems. So if your brain is in equilibrium, it is in good balance in terms of your emotions, your problem-solving ability, your cognitive development, your neural pathways, if all of that is in equilibrium, then guess what? You're going to solve problems faster, in a better way, in a more efficient way. That translates to more money coming in. The question that comes in is, what has this got to do with sex? Now, the process of sex, we call it the cycle of sex, the pleasure cycle of sex, is designed to stimulate your brain so that it becomes superpowered.
Wait a minute. I think we have to be clear here.
Yes.
We're talking of sex within marriage.
Exactly.
Sex between married people.
Absolutely. Okay. And so as the couple are building up their sexual experience, what happens is scientists, neurologists have discovered that sex lights up certain parts of the brain that nothing else can light up. In other words, when they put their transmitters, electrodes on human brains, there are parts of your brain that only light up in 2 experiences, when you're speaking in tongues or when you're having sex. So those parts get stimulated, and they are responsible for creativity, they're responsible for problem solving, they're responsible for focus and clarity. So the greater the sexual experience you have with your wife, with your husband, with your spouse, the sharper your brain becomes in problem solving. Now, here is how it works. God designed the brain. It has a part of our brain called the nucleus accumbens. The nucleus accumbens is what they call the pleasure center of the brain. And a simple analogy, if I eat something that's extra delicious, I have a T-bone steak, the nucleus accumbens says, wow, that experience was amazing. We enjoyed it. So it begins to send a message to the prefrontal cortex, which is the part that creates strategy and problem solving. It says, hey, we had a great time eating the steak. Let's eat it again. How can we eat a steak again? So it sends a signal to the strategy part of the brain. So we now create a strategy to repeat the process. So that's exactly the same with sex. When a couple engage in a great sexual experience, the pleasure center registers and says, that was amazing.
I think I like that. Not just sex, great sex.
Great sex, yes. We always talk about... all of this is in a book called The Greatest Sex Life Ever. So you need to work at having the greatest sex life. So once you have a great sexual experience, your nucleus accumbens sends a message to the prefrontal cortex to say, that was great, let's repeat it. So now we create strategy to keep repeating that which we find most pleasurable. So people that have a great sex life will be great at creating strategy. Now, I always say this in couple seminars, that it's important that the great sexual experience must be between husband and wife. Because if it is between an illicit relationship, the man or the woman becomes extra creative or great at creating strategy for adultery, as opposed to having great strategy for a great sex life between you and your spouse. So here is how it works. Every time you have an experience, neural pathways or paths are created in your brain that enlarge your brain's capacity to solve problems and to create strategy. That's what business is. So you'd find, if you do a survey, and there's stats on this if you research online, that the top billionaires in the world are still, most of them are still on their first marriage. Over 80% of all top billionaires are still on their first marriage. Over 85 or 86% of top millionaires, some of the most influential people in the marketplace, are still in their first marriage. And when you do research and check on them, you find that the fact that they've been together, they have mastered the art of working together as a team. Creating strategy, solving problems, creating a strategic pathway to creating more wealth. So that teamwork is enhanced in the bedroom. Once you master your marriage, once you master your sex life, you master the marketplace. Not that it's a natural progression. It is possible to have a great sex life and still not be a great strategist. But if you're going to have a great marriage and a great sex life, it means you're already mastering the art of getting your wife to be in bed with you, both of you enjoying it, having a great experience. So you're already an artistic person in the area of getting a great sex life. And that's where the relationship comes in. So what I teach people is, out of a great sex life, you get what I call the power benefits. One of them is the power of deep sleep, the power of problem solving, the power of unity and masterminding together, and the power of creative thinking. Now let's...
But most of us end up in the first one, the power of a deep sleep.
Let me tell you a story on the power of a deep sleep. There's a man that most people wouldn't know. I think his name is Bolt. He's the man behind a company called Caterpillar. He invented the big earth movers that we have today. Now, here is how he created his ideas, the power of deep sleep. He would draw and write and create a picture of something, and then he would go and sleep. The deeper his sleep was, the more creative his brain was in solving a problem. So it was deep sleep. So in the moment of deep sleep, he would come up with the concept, wake up and draw a caterpillar, draw an earth-moving piece of equipment. And then you take it to his engineers and say, I want you to design this for me. The engineers would say, it's not possible for that to happen. But he would say, I saw it in my deep sleep. And Job talks about when men are in deep sleep, creativity comes. So it's in that moment of deep sleep. Now, the question that comes is, what's the relationship between deep sleep and sex and creativity? That's a good question. And here's the answer. When you have a great round of sexual intimacy with your spouse, doctors have proven it. You release a whole lot of hormones, and the result is deep sleep. The deepest sleep any human being can experience comes after what they call a great sexual experience. And they call that REM sleep, R-E-M, random eye movement sleep. That's the deepest level of sleep a human being can experience. And that's when your brain is subject to the Holy Spirit giving you ideas, but that's also when your brain has the highest capacity to take every piece of information that you assimilated during the day and classify it. In other words, your brain says, this file belongs here, this file belongs here, this file belongs here. When you wake up, there's order. And now you can solve problems speedily and efficiently. And that translates to money. So people that hardly sleep or don't sleep very well or don't sleep deeply will always have high levels of stress, high levels of cortisol, and low levels of creativity. So sleep is very good, and sleep comes from great sex.
But will you equate that to the quiet time as well? Because most of the time we hardly have quiet times. And by quiet times, I'm not only referring to the time where you meditate or you speak to God. It's a lot of noise that we allow in our minds, in our brains, useless music sometimes.
Absolutely. Reflective moments are very, very important for our brain development. If your brain is on a consistent go, 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 you're listening to music, you're watching a soap opera, then you're doing something, then you're going somewhere, you are consistently using your brain, so it goes into stress mode. It says, I'm overworking, I need to rest. So going into reflection, going into quiet times allows your brain to now say, wow, I can now put stuff in order. And the people that also have a great opportunity to reflect well are people that are at peace. So this brings me to the power of problem solving. Human beings are designed to solve problems. We're created to solve problems. And that comes about in marriage. If, let's say, I'm having a very stressful time in my marriage, what happens is my mind says, particularly for men, we're very focused. My mind says there's a problem, there's a problem, there's a problem. I've got to solve it. So now I'm focused on solving the sexual problem, and I get into the marketplace. I've got a money problem. My brain is not going to be able to address both at the same time. Because women say they multitask, but they don't. It's been proved scientifically it's not multitasking. It's focusing on this and then shutting down for a few seconds, focusing on this and then shutting down for a few seconds. That creates confusion. That's why women tend to sometimes make a number of mistakes, whether it's driving, she's doing her hair, she's doing her makeup while she's driving, and then whoa, boom, something happens. But focus and problem solving says, if I am in a mode in my marriage where I feel at peace, I come out, there's great sex, there's great communication. My wife and I are getting along very, very well. I get to the marketplace, I can give 100% focus and attention on solving a 100 million rand problem than trying to sit there with a 100 million rand problem on my desk. But I'm thinking, why is my wife not wanting to have sex with me? Is there something wrong with me? Am I not a good enough man? Or maybe I need to deal with something. I need to fix something in my life. So confidence is taken away. The power of confidence feeds into your ability to solve problems. And the power of confidence is concomitant to the intimacy levels or sexual levels or enjoyment levels in bed. So your problem solving goes up, your confidence levels go up, your focus levels go up, your communication levels go up, and all of this is tools that you need. I mean, you're an amazing entrepreneur yourself, so and I'm sure you can attest to this, that as long as things are okay at home, when you're in the marketplace, you perform. You are like a hero. You are like a Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. You are solving problems. You're doing stuff. But once there's issues at home, you're trying to think, why is my wife not happy? Why this? And so you're now divided, and that broken focus waters down your ability to solve problems.
But tell me here, how do you sustain great sex? How do you perpetually have great sex? Because most couples will have great sex today, they have great sex tomorrow, they reach the climax of having great sex. It end up there. How do you continually have greater sex tomorrow than the one that you had before?
That's good. That's a brilliant question. And I have a simple answer to that, but it really works profoundly to help couples. Here's the question that they need to ask. What's the value that we're placing on our sex life? If you don't place great value on it, you will undermine it and you will not want to keep working at it. And a lot of couples have come to a place where they've lost the value of their sexuality. They think, oh no, well, it's just something that we do. A lot of women, and a lot of men watching this will attest to this. Their wives are in a place, husbands are saying, my wife doesn't want to have lots of sex with me. I want to continue and I want to increase. But she's in a stress mode. And the stress mode says, this is not a priority. This is a priority. So whatever we prioritize, we have more of. We become more intuitive, more creative. So for couples to increase the quality of their sex, they must understand the value of it. They must focus on it. They must have a clear vision. What kind of sex life do we want? I have a chapter in the book that's actually called Lights, Camera, Action. It's basically challenging couples to say, what kind of sex life do you want? Yeah. You've got to sit down, you've got to write down the frequency, the creativity, the level of exploration, the level of adventure you want to have in your sex life. Set it as a goal and begin to work towards that. And once you begin to see the value of sex translating or transmuting to financial and marketplace success, the woman is going to say, I think I'm enjoying the fact that my husband is making more money, so let me give him more sex. Yeah. Because by compromising the sex, she's actually reducing his ability to make more money for the family. So by increasing the sex, she's increasing his ability to create more wealth for the family. So see the value of great sex. You will begin to be more determined to make it work.
But Doc, why do you think its potency is locked in its blind spot?
Well, a lot of people have, particularly us in the church, we have made sex and sexual conversations to be taboo. We think that talking about sex is sinful, it's carnal, it's demonic, but the Bible, I always tell couples that if the Bible was to be made into a movie, it would be a PG-35 because it's very explicit. God speaks a lot about sex because sex is important. So we need to shift our mindset from the wrong perspective about our sex lives to begin to think of sex as a wonderful thing and think of sex as a useful tool for enhancing human relationships and human success. So we demystify it by bringing out candid conversations about such an important topic.
Wow. Well, what more can I say? I'm tempted to say something after the break. Welcome to Marketplace with Charles. I'm sitting here with my lovely guest. You know, the last time I met him, it was Pastor Tich. And that's why I still continue to make mistake, Pastor Tich, Pastor. And it's no longer Pastor Tich. It's now Dr. Tich. And we are discussing sex and business. Dr. Tich.
Yeah. Hot topic, yes.
Let's talk about the upside of sex.
Okay. I tell a story, personal testimony. As you say, I was Pastor Tich.
I love it. Personal testimony.
Personal testimony.
Okay, go for it.
I was Pastor Tich. Yeah. I remember going through school. My teachers told me I was a waste of academic time because my cognitive capacity in class was very, very low. My assimilation of information was very, very low. And the two ingredients that totally transformed my brain's capacity to assimilate information, number one was speaking with other tongues, praying in the Holy Spirit. That was a life-transforming encounter. And number two, it was a great sex life. When my wife and I got married, our sex was not great. I didn't understand sex. I was one of those pastors that had preached against sex a lot because I was a youth pastor. So I told people, stay away, abstain. Then when I'm married, I felt guilty about sex. So it took me almost 5-6 years to move into a place where my wife and I could say we had a great sex life that began to grow and develop from that, and all the principles and the truths are actually in the book. But when we began to have a great sex life, that's when I began to realize my brain was changing, my ability. I went through and I got my bachelor's. And I can tell you now, I went through my bachelor's. I ran a very busy schedule. I had no time to study. But I passed every exam just by sitting in class and listening. My brain had an amazing ability to assimilate information and write it on a paper in an exam and pass. I did my master's exactly the same way. I did my doctorate exactly the same way. And I realized that my brain had totally changed. When I began to research, I began to understand the power of what they call epigenetics. Basically saying what you are is not just a product of where you're coming from, but it is a product of what information you are assimilating and what processes you're going through. And there is no other human experience that enhances brain development like great sex within the confines of marriage. The greatest brain and psychological, emotional, cognitive development comes from a great sex life, because your brain absolutely goes through an amazing process, from the process of foreplay all the way through orgasm, all the way back to your resolution. You're going through an amazing experience where hormones are being released into your neurological system, signals are going back and forth at a rapid pace, and by the time you're done and you've gone through your orgasm, your brain is going through resolution. It's now saying, we are ready to take on the world. That is why men or people that have a great sex life have this confidence about them. Going back to the concept of epigenetics, let's use an interesting example. Some research was done some years back on mice. They took mice, and two sets of mice and a mother. They call them pups, the pups of two different mothers. And in mice, they discovered that a mother that is high on affection will always produce pups that are more confident. A mother that is low on affection produces less confident pups. And the way she shows her affection is by licking the mice. So a mother that licks her mice will produce kids that are very confident. And we know that confidence is an important part of the marketplace. You cannot go and sign and get deals and sell and make good sales if you're timid, and you can't sell a Mercedes, you can't sell a car, you can't sell a product anyway if you're timid. So they did this experiment and they discovered that, okay, it's the licking, it's not a genetic thing that says because your mother was confident, you will be confident. But it's because your mother showed you affection. So they took the pups and exchanged them. So they gave them the pups, the non-confident pups, to the mother that showed high affection. And those pups totally changed and became confident. Now let's bring it into human experience. A husband and wife that have a high level of affection and expression of affection will always, the husband will leave the home so confident and ready to take on the world. He can deal with any challenge, any problem, any situation, regardless of how difficult it is. But by virtue of the level of affection that he's getting from his wife, his performance in the marketplace will always be extremely high. So the key here is high affection marriages produce high confident performers. So this is the upside of a great sex life. It produces great confidence, great clarity, great focus, great brain development. So anyone out there can become a doctor. Even if they told you in school you were a B plus, B minus student, you can move to B plus, to C, to A, to whatever. You can become a brilliant thinker simply by having a great sex life. So for couples, I encourage wives, give your husband as much sex as you possibly can. Don't give him these excuses. I'm tired, I've got a headache, I've got a backache. Give him great sex. He'll become confident. He'll perform very well in the marketplace. And guess what? He's not going to be tempted. He's going to be so clear about coming back home. I always talk about make your husband come home. It's a pun, and it's very intentional. If your husband is not coming home, he's going to come somewhere else. So it's important that you build a high level of affection between the two of you so that his confidence factor, or even her confidence factor, is extremely high to solve problems. Now you see, I keep coming back to this thing about solving problems because the marketplace is a collection of problems. The business that goes to the top is the one that's got the best solutions, the best innovation, the best creativity. And again, that comes back to a great sex life.
If someone wants to get hold of your material, because we ran out of time, and I can see you are loaded, how do they get hold of Dr. Tich?
Well, my website is very open and very interactive, highly interactive. It's drtich.com. That's my website. My email address is tich@drtich.com. So I love to interact with people. I love to connect with people. All our books are there. I've published 14 books to date, and 3 of them are powerful on marriage, 3 of them are powerful on the marketplace. So we call those the marriage trilogy and the marketplace trilogy, the wealth trilogy. And I'd encourage any business person who wants to really become highly successful to read those books.
And to connect with you.
Yes, get coaching, get your marriage coached until your sex life is great and you'll be able to achieve highly in the marketplace.
Well, Dr. Tich, thanks for gracing our studio.
Hey, Charles, thank you.
Well, viewers out there, I am Charles Ngobeni signing off on Marketplace with Charles. Thank you very much for watching this episode. You can get hold of me on all forms of social media. God bless you. See you next time, same place.